I never imagined this day would come, that the person I trusted most in my life would cross a line so unforgivable. And worse, that my own son would be involved. My name is Robert, 52, and I've spent my life building a family, a home, a life of integrity. I believed in loyalty, respect, and honesty. But what I learned changed everything. It started innocently enough. My wife, Linda, and I had been married for 25 years. Our children were grown. Alex, my eldest, was 28, and Sophie, my daughter, 25. Life had settled into a predictable rhythm. Linda managed the household and her small home business. I managed my construction company. We weren't perfect. There were small arguments here and there. But I never imagined betrayal of this magnitude. It all came to light last summer. I had noticed subtle changes in Linda's behavior over the past few months: late nights at work, secretive phone calls, an unusual attention to appearance that wasn't for me. I brushed it off, thinking maybe she was just reconnecting with friends or exploring new hobbies. But something deep inside told me it wasn't that simple. Then one evening, I was reviewing some files in my home office when my eyes caught a message on Linda's laptop. A name jumped out. Alex. My son. My own flesh and blood. Confusion turned into disbelief as I read further. The messages weren't casual. The tone, the intimacy, it was unmistakable. My heart sank. I sat frozen, unable to breathe as the reality crystallized. Linda and Alex were having an affair. I didn't react immediately. I didn't yell or storm into the room. Years of handling construction crises, tense negotiations, and high-pressure decisions had trained me to control my emotions. This was different, but the principle was the same. Observe, assess, plan, react strategically. Panic would ruin everything. Over the next few days, I watched their interactions closely. Every glance, every hidden smile, every subtle gesture reinforced my worst fears. Alex thought I hadn't noticed. Linda thought she was clever. They were wrong. I realized that this betrayal wasn't just emotional. It was a test of my awareness, my patience, and my ability to handle the unthinkable. The night I decided to act, I stayed silent during dinner. Alex was giddy, unaware I had pieced everything together. Linda tried her usual charm, the soft smile that used to melt me, the gentle touch that had once comforted me. But the man she used to know was gone. I allowed the conversation to flow normally, all the while planning the exposure that would finally hold them accountable. I needed more than confrontation. I needed impact. I needed the truth to hit like a storm. Not just between us, but in front of those who mattered, who had trusted her, who had looked up to our family. That's when I contacted Mark, my longtime lawyer and friend. We discussed strategy, timing, the audience. Everything had to be precise. Because revenge, real, satisfying, irreversible, wasn't about anger. It was about delivering truth so potent that the betrayal could never be ignored, excused, or hidden again. And the next morning, everything would change. The morning after I finalized the plan, I woke before anyone else. The house was quiet. Linda and Alex were still asleep, oblivious to the storm about to hit. I brewed coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and reviewed every detail. Timing was everything. Exposure without preparation would be chaos. I needed control. I needed precision. By mid-morning, I called Mark. "It's time," I said. He nodded. "Remember, Robert, this is about truth, not emotion. Make it undeniable." That was exactly how I felt. This wasn't about revenge fueled by anger. It was about justice, the raw, unfiltered reality of betrayal. I sent an anonymous tip to our local community group and to a few mutual friends we trusted, just enough to ensure witnesses. But the most important audience was family. The truth needed to reach them first, so no lies could preempt the story. When I walked back into the house, Linda was in the kitchen, humming as if everything were normal. Alex followed her, grinning. I didn't flinch. I didn't show a hint of what I knew. "Morning," I said casually, taking a sip of my coffee. Linda froze slightly at my calm. "Morning," she replied, a little too tightly. I watched them, every micro-expression, every slight twitch. Guilt flickered across their faces, but they masked it quickly. They thought I hadn't discovered anything. That was their mistake. Then came the moment. I casually mentioned, "I think we should have a family meeting later." Alex's grin faltered. Linda's eyes narrowed. "Family meeting? she asked, suspicious. Yes, I replied. It's important. Everyone needs to hear some things today. They exchanged a subtle, panic-stricken look, but there was nothing they could do. I had control. I set the stage calmly, meticulously. They didn't even realize it yet, but the walls were closing in. By evening, friends and relatives began arriving. I had prepared an environment that looked like a casual holiday gathering. Smiles, laughter, polite conversation, but beneath it, tension was thick. Everyone sensed something was off. I finally spoke, my voice calm but deliberate. I have something very important to share, I said. All eyes turned toward me. It concerns trust, honesty, and family. Things we all value. And things that, when broken, cannot be ignored. Linda's lips parted, ready with a defense. Alex's hands tightened into fists. But I didn't pause for reaction. I revealed everything: messages, encounters, inconsistencies. Step by step, I laid the evidence bare, narrating the betrayal with clarity, detail, and irrefutable proof. The room went silent. Shock rippled through the audience. Friends gasped. Relatives exchanged glances. Linda's face drained of color. Alex's shoulders slumped. The woman who once commanded attention with a smile, and the son who thought he could hide anything, were suddenly powerless. By the end, the betrayal was undeniable. The emotional weight was crushing. But I didn't gloat. I didn't yell. I let the truth speak for itself. Watching them confront the reality of their actions, the shame, the fear, the recognition of their irreversible mistakes, was a moment I would never forget. After the revelation, Linda and Alex retreated to separate rooms, their whispers and arguments echoing faintly through the house. I didn't follow. There was no need. The humiliation, the shock, and the weight of their guilt were already doing what no confrontation could achieve. I stayed in the living room, letting the silence settle like a heavy curtain over the house. By nightfall, the aftermath was undeniable. Relatives and friends had quietly left, some offering sympathetic glances, others shaking their heads in disbelief. I knew the truth had spread further than just the walls of our home. Word would travel, and the impact would be far-reaching. The betrayal could no longer be hidden, excused, or denied. The next day, I took deliberate steps to reclaim control of my life. I met with Mark again to finalize legal protections, separating assets, ensuring accountability, and preventing any further manipulations. The focus was not revenge for revenge's sake. It was to secure boundaries, to create consequences for actions that had crossed every line imaginable. Linda tried to speak, her voice trembling, offering apologies, excuses, and promises. Alex attempted a feeble explanation, claiming confusion and immaturity. I listened without interruption. Neither could undo the damage they had inflicted. Their words had lost their power. Actions, after all, are far louder than any apology. I called my children into the living room, Sophie first and then Alex. The contrast was stark. Sophie's face was pale, her eyes wide with a mixture of shock and disappointment. Alex, once confident and brash, looked diminished, ashamed. I addressed them both directly, calmly but firmly. I explained the gravity of betrayal, the importance of integrity, and the weight of actions. No yelling, no melodrama. Just the cold, undeniable truth. In the days that followed, I watched the ripple effect unfold. Linda's reputation among friends and colleagues suffered as the truth reached beyond our walls. Alex faced the difficult realization that some lines, once crossed, can never be mended. Meanwhile, I focused on rebuilding my life, reclaiming dignity, and prioritizing those who had never betrayed trust, the children who remained honest and friends who stood by me. Through it all, I learned an essential truth. Betrayal is devastating, but it does not define the person who was wronged. Control, patience, and strategic action can transform devastation into empowerment. By exposing the truth deliberately, without losing composure, I was able to assert boundaries and deliver consequences that were inevitable yet fair. In the end, Linda and Alex faced the weight of their choices, while I reclaimed the life I deserved. Trust, once shattered, could never be assumed again. But the lesson was clear. Respect is earned, loyalty is non-negotiable, and crossing certain lines comes at a cost far greater than imagined. And that is how I turned the most painful betrayal of my life into a moment of clarity, accountability, and ultimate justice. Not through rage, not through vengeance, but through truth, and the unwavering resolve to protect the life I had built.